Welcome back to Just Talking. We have a great show for you today. Why? We have a great guest this evening, and that is Paul Niemeyer, who is a great artist, and we're going to also talk about the arcade era. And Paul, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, Paul, let's hear about it. How did you get involved in artwork?
Actually, I always wanted to be an artist. When I was like in kindergarten, when they'd go around and say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Uh, you know, Everybody said astronaut or airline pilot, and I was like, artist. Like kind of like don't ask again, And my mom loves telling that story because the kindergarten teacher told her he was so sure, he was so very sure, So yeah, always. And actually, my mom was very talented. My father too. Actually, he apparently he was interested in engineering. I found a bunch of sketches in my grandparents' attic that he had done. So I got it kind of from both sides, um, they were great parents. I grew up on a dairy farm in Illinois, and it was a lot of work, and always had chores, but they always made time for me to draw.
So then in high school, did you start taking art classes or do things on your own? What was the next step?
Um, well, they would like trek me up to Park They had an art league and a very cool artist. Patricia Moore was her name. I remember she was such an influence on me as a teenager. She really kind of taught me how to paint and how to do layouts and give me a little more confidence to just jump in and just start doing stuff. She was an abstract painter, and she just believed in just throwing the paint on and just see what the hell happened. And her attitude was so great. It was just such an inspiration. And that my parents, I mean, during the summertime, farm, you're swamped with work. That they took the time out to drive me up for these classes. It was a half-hour drive one way.
Wow. So what was your first artist job?
Commission painting that I did way back in the yeah, okay. I had done a show at the end of a oh God, the end of my junior college career, and somebody came to the show and saw the pieces and commissioned me to do this huge painting for their living room for like $500. It was a lot of money in 1977. And I remember I took the painting to their house, and I had a painting I had done inside a van that I was customizing. And when he helped me come out to pick up or take the painting out of the van, he saw the other painting, and he gave me another $200 for that. And I thought, wow, man, this is it. This is the stuff. I'm making money. I'm a professional artist. And like from that moment on, I thought I'm a professional artist.
Well, now I want to move into the era I want to talk about is video games. And
All
I
right.
believe you worked for Bally Midway, is that correct?
Yeah, Bally Midway. I started in 1982, and I was there till 1984, almost exactly 2 years.
When you were at Bally Midway, what games did you work on?
Oh man. Um, let's see. I started out. Boy, I was there like about 2 days, and also the honeymoon was over, and I was working on Tron. Like my very, I know, isn't that crazy? Just like that, I was like 24 years old, couldn't believe it. Like the week before, I was doing Bob's Pet Store, sign, a little sign shop on the southwest side of Chicago, and all of a sudden I'm working on Tron and Pac-Man stuff, and I was like Pac-Man Plus, or I did Pac-Man Super Pac-Man, and then Pac-Man Plus, and then Professor Pac-Man.
So let's go back to Tron because Disney's usually, with their movies, they're kind of secret about it. Did they have like meetings with you and, showed you the movie or how? Because
Secret is the word.
it was a huge arcade game at the time, just because when it's a tie-in with the movie. How
Yeah.
were the meetings leading up to it?
Okay. Um, well, I was just assigned to it. Like I said, I was there just a couple of minutes, and all of a sudden, here you go. You're working with Doug Watson, Art God, and they were super secretive about it. They had sent over all these images that we were to use, but we had no idea what any of this was. Who's who's the bad guy? Who's these glowing guys?
Yeah, right, right.
Uh, really, we knew nothing about the movie. They're like I said, super secretive, even though we were supposed to be working with them. So then we were told we were going to see the movie. Okay, that Doug get to see the movie so that we know what we were looking at and what we were working with. And, and so the day came, and it was really a Tuesday, and the guy from Disney comes out, flies out from LA. There's no internet. It's 1982. So it comes out with the tape, and they wheeled in a VCR the size of a desk, and he puts it in and he starts playing it. And I mean, it is just random. It's just like it's not like it's just kind of like random spliced, you know. Oh, there's discs. There's a what's this thing going? Well, an explosion, and and oh, there's light cycle things, and oh no, what are those pinchy things flying around? And really, that was all about it. And all of a sudden, it was done. And the guy casually walked over, hit rewind, and without even looking up, we said, "Hey, can we see it again?" Nope. Didn't
Wow.
even look at it. Nope. Just hit
Wow.
stop, pulled it out, put it in his case, and walked out of the door of the conference room. And we're just
Wow.
sitting there like two idiots. Oh God. And there's windows looking out of the parking lot. And we see a car pull up, he gets in and he drives away. And we're still sitting in the conference room like, should we leave? We like, I think we're done. Yeah, this is all it is. So that was about all that we were allowed to really see, and then we kind of took it from there. That was it. That was our entire influence from Disney.
So from that meeting, what was the time frame to get it done? A
Oh,
few
it
weeks, a month?
it was pretty quick, and I remember George Gomez was designing the game, and he made that great glow in it, or the black light bezel on that thing, and one of the things that was holding it up was he wanted to use the F-14 um, joystick. That's the joystick on it. It's actually from the F-14. And he was, man, he was like a dog with a bone. He had to have that F-14, and it held things up because they're literally waiting for the Air Force to go, okay, you can use our joystick. It's all right.
Um, Well, I'll tell you, that's why I credit you and other artists. But as kids, we just run to the games, but the artwork is on pinballs, it's on the sides of the games, it's Atari cartridges. Well, I'm guessing that's where the marketing department comes in.
Absolutely. Yeah, they were in the art department almost every day. Um, I gotta say, what was her name? Kathy. Uh, I just looked her up the other day. Uh, anyway, she was head of like she was like liaison between marketing and art department. She was down there almost every day checking on stuff, and they're real good about that. We had a good rapport with the marketing department. They were young and hands on, and they were ambitious, and so were we. And we had something that was fun and exciting and new and challenging, and the technology was changing daily. You know, so it was just great fun, and I don't think it dawned on any of us that we were like creating the whole pop culture of the 80s at the time, kind of.
Absolutely,
Certainly,
absolutely. You're
yeah.
right in the heart of it. Yeah, and people are
Oh,
putting it's like it's come back around. People are, buying these arcade games on eBay or going or the arcade places are popping up again just for
oh,
that
yeah.
retro thing.
Arcades all over the
Arcades, yeah.
place. Every city that we go to, I do about 20 cities a year. Um, Usually, at one point or another, there's a barcade in town that invites us out, and they want to do an event, and that's awesome. We love doing those things, and I'm just blown away by the popularity of it. But more than anything, I'm blown away by the age group that is in the barcade, 20 somethings, and they're looking at it like this is the newest, coolest, greatest, latest. you
That's
know
true. Yeah. They've never
Everything
seen
comes
something
around
like
again, I guess. It really does more than even I thought.
So even though you did the artwork, did you ever have an interest in those video games at the time? Like, did you go out to the arcades in 82 or 83 and
Oh
try?
yeah. I was an avid player. I
Okay.
suck. I'm, I'm terrible,
But
absolutely terrible, but
like
I
you
love
said, the
them.
games are simple that, that people, I think that's why it worked at the time. It was simple, general, and got the people in there, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look at the dynamic of Pac-Man. It still works because it's a good game. You didn't need any more than what that was. It was everything it needed to be. I think a lot of those games possibly were designed around the technology that was available. And it's like, okay, these are parameters we work within. Well, then we have to design a game that works, elegantly at those parameters. And then I think that was probably the force on a lot of those games.
And I think I looked at, you also did, or did you work on Tapper as well?
Yes, Margaret Hudson and I did Tapper. And I remember I had started, Tapper was originally going to go in the old Mappy cabinet, which had a square marquee. So Rich Graffiti, my immediate boss, came to me and he said, "Okay, I want you to design a logo for Tapper, but it's fitting in a square marquee. And here's the thing: make it look like Cheers, but not."
Wow.
It's like, okay. That was pretty much what I did. And then just about the time that got finished, was the time that Bally Midway was switching over to the Universal Cabinet, and they decided to to scrap that whole thought of putting it in a Mappy cabinet and putting it in. I think Tapper might have been one of the very first games to have gone into the Universal Cabinet, and the reason was they wanted to show that they could adapt the Universal Cabinet to any game. So that was the one that they had. They had the little bar, like little
Oh,
the cabinet had little brass things so you could put your beer in the bar. So, and those are just add-ons that they just screwed onto the side of the cabinet or everything. But that it was funny how the company's policies were evolving as the games were evolving.
so who did the character of Tapper come from? Do you know on that?
Uh, the bartender,
Yeah, the bartender.
you got me on that
Okay.
one.
Because it works.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah. He's great. He kind of reminds me of a little Peter Pepper character that's on Burger Time.
at when you said you left in 80 or 83, and you were there at that time when I always hear about this when the bubble burst, where the video game just ended. It's like boom, it was like turning off a switch.
Yeah.
Why do you think that happened, or in the industry, your viewpoint, why it just the arcade games just
Well,
stopped?
I've actually got a probably pretty sound take on it, and mainly because I talked to a lot of people. I talked to Paul Ferris, who ended up having to let me go. I don't want to say fire, but let's face it, that was you're laid off. And I've been waiting 40 years for them to call me back. It's not going to happen. So, um, yeah, that was a real funny thing. The the arcade owners had to actually buy the games that were in the arcades. And so at the time, I think they were going for around $2,000, $2,500. So, but it's like 1982 money. That was a lot of money. It's probably about like $5,000 now. And that's a lot to throw into a game. Now you got to get all that back in quarters to make it worth your while. And the trouble is yeah, we were cranking out games left and right. We couldn't crank out enough games. I mean, in the two I was there, I was responsible for 7 games, and it was just me. So there were everybody. Yeah, so many games were being cranked out, and of course, competition was tough. Williams was doing the same thing, and Atari was out there doing the same thing, and everybody else was, cranking out all the games, and the arcade owners are going, enough, we can't afford to buy. You got a game that's popular for a week, and then another one comes out and then takes its place, and now I haven't made my money back on the first game. You got to bring the price down. We can't afford to pay all these games. And the business's answer to that was Dragon's Lair. It was, I think at the time, was going for like $5,000, and of course it had that huge laser disc inside, and great game, but changed everything. And it was just a perfect storm that destroyed the industry. When that came out, the arcade owners were like, "Oh, perfect! Just so you double, great. We can't afford to do this anymore." And then they're just orders are being canceled, and the place every Friday was Black Friday. Um, and it was weird because we were attached to the factory, and we were so used to going out on the factory floor to see how production was going. So now we got to know people out there. Well, now you go out there and whole sections would be dark, and it'd be like 50 people gone from the line. And that has an effect on everybody. And you can't do that every Friday for a couple of weeks in a row without, having the place just start falling apart. And the office staff was first the factory went, and then the office staff.
Well, it looks like we have a few minutes left. Quick question.
Sure.
Mortal Kombat, was that after 83 or was that before?
Oh, that's 92.
Oh, 92, that's right. Okay. 90.
Yeah.
Well, that hit
Yeah.
that hit it pretty big. Now that was for Nintendo or
No, that was for Midway. But in reality, Williams had bought Midway at the time, and for whatever reason, they kept the name Midway on the front door. And apparently, I think it was maybe 4 or 5 years later, they did switch it over to Williams. But technically, it was Williams with Midway on the front door for whatever reason. And Bally had kind of divorced themselves of Midway at that point. So they're just kind of working independently. So
and you came up with the idea for the logo or the Mortal Kombat with the horse or no?
yeah, not a thing, not a bit of that. No.
Well, it looks
Yeah,
good
no.
on the poster.
Yeah, no, actually, here's the thing. I was a freelancer, and actually, John Tobias had come up with the the comps that they had given me, and the game was still called Dragon Attack. My very first meeting, they changed the name to Mortal Kombat in that
Oh
meeting.
wow.
Yeah, at the end of it, after so here's the thing. What we didn't know is that secretly, uh, um, administration had been talking to Jean-Claude Van Damme, and they wanted him to be Johnny Cage. But that all fell through. But we didn't find that out. That was a big secret. So in their minds, in management's minds, the whole thing was going to be a big flop because Jean-Claude Van Damme no longer is on board. So let's just blow this out of here. Just get it out of our lives. That was their attitude. It was going to be a flop. Let's get it done with and be done with it. And the only reason they finished, they almost didn't make Mortal Kombat. Think about that. They almost didn't finish it. The only reason they did is because they're over the halfway point in developing, and they just thought, oh, what the hell, finish it. Okay, so now we're not wasting time on a staff artist. Let's just get some freelancer guy in here to blow it out. Hey, Greg Fair is my old boss. Hey, do you know anybody that's fast? Well, Paul's the fastest wrist in the West, and that's how I got involved.
So where can people see your artwork, Paul?
Oh, on my Facebook page, it's Paul E. Niemeyer. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram every once in a while, and mostly just social media.
All right. Well, we
Yeah.
thank you so much for Paul for coming on down. You're an absolute excellent artist, and thank you so much for talking.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. Peace out, everybody.